I don't have a funny intro, it's way too hot for that. But speaking of hot, I've always been wondering, how well does the thermal imaging camera on drones work in the summertime? I really don't even have to ask that question. I've used it during summertime missions a couple times, and the answer is not very well. Thermal imaging cameras rely mostly on showing the difference between the temperature ranges that you're looking at. That's why they work so great in the wintertime when the surrounding area is all nice and cold, and they don't work as great in the summertime because my skin is basically the same heat as the ground right now. So there's not much difference in thermal energy for the thermal imaging camera to really pick up on. But I figured today, this is a video I've always wanted to do, is show the different color spectrums that the drones have, is showing how they are affected by the temperature out here, and show off what a person who is out here working in the heat looks like on a thermal imaging camera. So I'm gonna come out here and do some chores in the new orchard, which is growing up perfectly. I'm gonna get the hell away from these bees that are all playing around here. We're gonna put the Mavic 3T up in the air and get a good idea of how I look on a very hot day in a very hot kind of barren dirt ground, and kind of go over how the different thermal imaging outputs you can look at for your drone on search and rescue will look. One way this might actually help you is if you happen to have a search and rescue mission at night. You're not going to be able to use your normal cameras during the night because you won't be able to see anything, and you need a thermal imaging camera to help see in the dark. This exact same scenario happened to my team last year, where we had a missing person in an urban situation, and we needed to have the drone looking for him pretty much all night, and we couldn't see anything with the wide and zoom view, obviously, so we had to use the thermal the entire night. It was still quite warm, and it was kind of tough to pick out various bits of heat, but still did it. So I figured this will serve at least some sort of good guide to give you an idea of how the different thermal views could help you out on your next summer search and rescue mission using drones. So we're going to go ahead and put the Mavic 3T up in the air, and we're going to go over all the different color spectrum outputs that you can look at on the drone, as well as the skinny band and the wide band that will give us a good idea of exactly what a missing person might look like out here in the summer heat if you happen to be looking at them for a thermal, which would probably be rare because if you're looking for someone in the middle of the day, you're probably going to be using your wide view and your zoom view to pick up on different colorations and see someone moving. There's really no reason to be looking for them on thermal, but you never know. I've used a thermal on a couple different search and rescue missions in the summer, and I really didn't know what I was looking at, so hopefully this will at least serve as some sort of guide of sorts. I don't know what I'm doing. Do any of us know what we're doing? What are we even doing here? It's been a while since you guys have seen this orchard too, but look at it. It's starting to grow up. We're just trying to keep all the weeds and everything down now. So we've sprayed a bunch of them, and I'm gonna go and chop out some of the bigger ones while we have the drone in the air. All right, so we're right up to 100 feet, and just gonna turn on the main camera and gonna see how I look.
I included the normal wide view for this test to act as the sort of control subject, so that when you go back and review the footage, you can compare the various thermal views to the normal standard view, which, spoiler alert, this is definitely the best view out of the entire video.
Simple as. All right, on to the next spot.
I'm not trying to prove anything with these tests, I just wanted to create a video that would be a good reference for any other SAR members.
All right, I found another ground cherry to chop. I've switched over to infrared mode. Let's go ahead and start off with the first one in the lineup, which is going to be white hot. And I've got it set to the narrow band, which is going to be showing a lot less wider range of temperatures, but it's going to show up any temperatures that it does look at. It's going to have a lot more detail to them. So that's what we're going to start off with, is the narrow band, go through all 6 colors, spectrums that we can look at the information with, and then basically go right over to the same thing, just repeat it all with the wide band. So first off, narrow band, white hot.
I found the white hot band to be pretty okay. you can see that my body temperature is a fair amount cooler than the ground around it, and all of the other black subjects you can see on this video is living vegetative growth that is kept cooler by having so much water in its leaves. You might notice something right off the bat that will be a reoccurring theme throughout all of these tests: the fact that I seem to blend into the vegetation almost immediately. I'll tell you right now, that was the number one problem I ran into when reviewing all this footage, is the fact that I walked up to a green plant and basically disappeared on the thermal.
Alright, narrow band, black hot. I find myself switching between white hot and black hot often, no matter what time of year I am doing a SAR mission in, because sometimes one just works better than the other. Pretty simple. Basically, the reason we're out here chopping these is the spray we're going to be using for weeds, the herbicide, is grass only spray. It won't work against broadleafs, so easy to just come out here and chop out the big ones. Beautiful field of sunflowers. Completely smoke obscured skies. That's California, baby!
Black hot I've found to be pretty much useless. All of the background being black while everything in front of it being white on this hot summer day meant that I was obscured even more so than usual. The bright colors cause a lot more eye fatigue to me and makes it so much easier to get lost in the contrast. So, in my humble opinion, I would not recommend using black hot, at least not on a hot summer day such as this. It's just way too easy to get completely lost in the sea of white.
Alright, next up is tint on the narrow spectrum. I like tint, not all of the time. Sometimes it can be a little overwhelming and it shows up way too much red. It's nice having that third color spectrum to add in when you're searching for someone, but I find it to be better suited for colder temperatures. But it works alright sometimes in the summer. We'll see how it shows up for me.
I found tint to be slightly better, mostly because it uses the white hot spectrum as its base and then adds in a third color, red, to help differentiate. It worked better than black hot, that's for sure, and I would probably compare it to white hot, although I still think the almost two colors of white hot looked a little bit better. But that's all subjective. Let me know what you think. Tint works great at night, especially in the summertime, but I'm not a huge fan of it during the day. And I know for all of you yelling at your screen right now saying, of course these thermals aren't working great during the summer heat. I know. I think it's just important to sometimes do the science for the sake of doing the science.
Alright, next up is Iron Red, which is definitely one of the ones I like more for the summer. I start getting kind of the predator territory with the thermal imaging, but having more colors I find to be better. You get more, I can't think of the word. When I think of the word, I'll put it right here. That's the word. That's the exact word I'm thinking of. You get more of that word when you use different colors, and it helps a lot better in the summertime. So yeah, Iron Red, narrow band.
At the risk of overusing the word contrast, now that I remember it several weeks later when editing this video, I feel like Iron Red ran into the same contrast problems that tint did. Having three colors didn't quite help out all that much more than just having two, and found myself wanting to just go right back to white hot, where it was a very stark black on white background and much easier to keep track of where I was as compared to mixing in yellows and purples and blacks into it. I felt it didn't help all that much.
All right, now we are on to hot iron narrow band, which if you had to give me one choice of infrared camera to have one in setting on the DJI drones to have during the summertime, it'd probably be this one. You get a full rainbow spectrum of colors to choose from to look through, and it really helps with showing up that same word I've already forgotten when you're reviewing the footage later or when you're out actively searching. So yeah, hot iron, narrow spectrum.
Out of all of the various settings, I definitely think that hot iron is probably my favorite setting for thermal use in the summertime, both at day and night. You have a wide spectrum of colors with which to look at, and it really helps differentiate between body heat, ground heat, tree heat, etc. If I had to choose between the two color spectrums I would prefer to use for search and rescue missions during the summer, it would for sure be hot iron and white hot. Both of them just kind of set the standard in my opinion.
This worked out perfectly because I'm at the end of the row, but now we are on to Arctic, which is definitely not what kind of biome we're in right now, but hey, that's what we're doing testing for. So Arctic, narrow band, I gotta get to chopping because the battery's about to go out and the drone's gonna try and return to home. So let's get to it.
The Arctic setting is dead on arrival in my opinion. It just suffers from way too many colors and just so much eye fatigue. Staring at all of these bright colors of pinks, yellows, greens, blues, purples, etc., it just becomes a soupy mess that I can't even really find myself looking at for too long without my eyes starting to get tired. I have a lot more testing I'd love to do on various settings when it comes to wintertime, and maybe Arctic will work out better when we are actually using it in the conditions it's made for, but for summertime usage, I can't really think of a single time I would ever pick Arctic over anything else. Also, as you can see, it did run out of battery and start returning to home.
All right, that worked out just in time. Time to change the batteries. So I'm gonna be trying to keep this video a little short. Not so much because I don't enjoy having fun talking to you guys, but because I'm trying to make it for some easier editing on my part, because we have just started almond harvest, and since that is where my main source of income comes from, I need to focus on that. But I still would like to keep up with trying to put out a video every single weekend, every single Sunday for you guys. And I want it to be high quality, but there might be some times coming soon where you just get a life update, at least for the next couple of weeks. I've still got some great stuff coming. Still, by the time this one comes out, I'll hopefully have had a couple weeks of stuff put out. But once I end up sitting in an almond shaker or sitting in an almond bank out, or especially once I start sitting in a rice harvester, who knows? Maybe I'll start doing more live videos, at least when it comes to rice. And we'll have some just Q&As, some chats. I don't know. What do you think? If you like the idea of me doing some live streams from the cockpit of the rice harvester and whatnot, once we get to there, it's a little hard to do live videos in the middle of almond orchard because there's no cell service. But when it comes to rice, what do you guys think? Would you be interested in some live streams like that? Let me know in the comments. Let's get the drone up in the air, and now we will start the wide spectrum tests. All right, now we are going to be going over to the wide view spectrum, to the wide band of the thermal camera. So I'm going to press record right there to get this going. And so on the screen, you should see, go from the narrow view, poke it over to the wide view, and you'll see it changes, but not all that much. It looks different. Just watch, you'll see. There is a significant difference in the narrow versus wide view, and you'll probably see it as we start walking. But there you go, that's what we're gonna be filming in. All right, so we've gone all the way back to starting with white hot, and we are on the wide band now. Let's see what it looks like.
Not only does using the wideband allow you to see a wider range of temperatures, it really smooths out all of those temperatures that you are looking at. It doesn't give as precise a measurement or as precise a crisp image, I guess, of the thermal energy you're looking at, but honestly, sometimes it's nice to quiet down that noise and have a much more smoother photo with few details to help prevent eye fatigue and just give you a clearer picture. As I've mentioned on several of my other videos on this topic, I find myself switching between the narrow and wide bands constantly on all of my searches. You never know which one will pick up what you're looking for.
Alright, so now we're over to Black Hot, wide view. Let's see how it turns out. I'm sure you guys see me cutting these out and you're going, well, why am I cutting these ones out when they're not on top of the berm? And if there's already weeds on top of the berm, why are you cutting those ones out? And the answer is, these ones are so big, the mower is probably not going to take them out. And all of the weeds I'm not chopping on top of the berm are probably not going to grow tall enough to do any damage to the trees by shading them out, or they're already getting towards the end of their life expectancy that they're not going to take too much water away from them as well. So, whereas these big double claw plants right here, there's a good chance the mower is not going to get all of them. So if I can chop them, throw them to the middle to make sure that the mower actually does its job, then even better. Also, I'm chopping what I feel like. It's my orchard. I'll do whatever I want.
Black Hot is still definitely not my favorite spectrum to use in the summer, but switching over to the wideband really helped clarify things at least a little bit more. Cutting out all of that background thermal noise of the ground and making it so that everything was just a little smoothed out really helped me show up at least a bit more. As you can see, even just walking among those plants, I kind of camouflage myself into them without even trying, and when I walk up to one of those big plants, I turn completely invisible. One of these times I'm going to try and recreate this video in the desert, because I'd really be interested to see how much different things are without all of the vegetative growth around to provide that contrast. What if it was all the same looking?
How many more of these do I have to do? Okay, tint on wide view. Yeah, there's a reason I've been putting off this video, even though there's been a lot hotter days where it would probably get a lot better footage for this, and it's because this sucks. This is hot out here. I've been working out in this all day, and I'm ready to go sit in the shade and do some editing. Anyways, here's tint, wide view.
The tint setting really wasn't all that different from the white hot setting. Everything that was cool is still showing up as black, and everything that's hot is still showing up as white, and the only really area that the tint coloration kicks in is where the sun was beating down on the ground the hardest. I really don't see a reason to use tint over white hot when you're using at least the wide setting. Another spot besides the desert that I should really redo this test in is up in the mountains, where there's different valleys and ridges and trees that provide shade, to see how much it affects it up there.
Hot iron. Oh god, let me double check. No, iron red. Iron red. Iron red, wide view. I'm getting heat stroke.
After poo-pooing iron red in the narrow view settings, I gotta admit, it kind of won me over in the wide view. Having that difference between the blacks and the purples when there's so much less coloration to worry about really helped out quite a bit. I am gonna probably have to add this to my arsenal of when I'm having to do search and rescue missions at night in summertime. It may not seem like much, but being able to differentiate this well between the blacks, blues, and purples is huge when you as a drone pilot are just trying to find the smallest difference in thermal energy that could be the person that you're looking for. It still suffers from the same problem, however, of me blending right into the bushes.
Alright, the next spot is honestly not even worth driving to, but figure I'd save time. Switch over to hot iron, wide view.
Color me surprised again when I found myself enjoying iron red more than hot iron as it pertains to the wide view spectrum. I felt like I just kind of blended in even a little bit more with this setting than I did on iron red. I still think that hot iron is the clear winner, at least in my book, for the narrow view spectrum, but for the wide view spectrum, I definitely think that iron red has unseated it as my favorite. I know it probably sounds like I'm fishing for comments in order to feed the algorithm, which is always true, but I'm legitimately curious, what are your guys' opinions? Do you think hot iron's better than red iron? Or which one, in your opinion, do you think is the best? I'm very curious to hear.
All right, last one. Arctic wide view. I once again must make the same semi-joke that this is not Arctic conditions at all.
If I was making more jokes and memes in this video, I would insert several different laugh tracks or disgust tracks here, because this is just awful to look at. Yeah, I show up pretty stark on this video, but seeing all of this bright yellow, pinks, and greens just hurts my eyes so bad. I couldn't imagine staring this at nighttime, trying to discern anything. I'm sure Arctic has its place. I'm sure it's gonna work great when I do some winter videos, but for now, I find this absolutely abhorrent to look at. I am ashamed to have even brought this before your eyeballs and burned this image into your retina. I apologize.
Alright, that was all the different spectrums with me walking around and probably doing voiceover over them. I haven't decided yet.
Obviously, I did decide to do voiceover, and so if you made it this far, I want to tell you that I've been playing through the Final Fantasy series, all the way back starting with 1. And I gotta admit, so far 1 and 2 have not held up through the ages. I'm sorry.
Alright, we've gone and found us some shade, thank God. Now I just need some cold water. And we're gonna put up the Mavic one last time, and we're going to go see what a fully warmed up running tractor looks like in the summer. Give a good idea of how any sort of vehicle you might be searching for in the summertime might look as well. So we're just gonna rapid fire go through all of the different spectrums, and if you want to get a good glimpse of them, go ahead and pause the video. I'm gonna try and do about 5 seconds per spectrum. Let's check it out. All right, landed the drone, and I'm gonna go find me some better shade and some ice cold water. What did you guys think about this test? Think it was pretty fair? What thermal setting did you think was the best? What would you guys do differently? What do you guys use differently in your search and rescue organizations? Leave them in the comments below. I'm always open to advice and different opinions. If you enjoyed this sort of content, like and subscribe. If you didn't like it, yell at me in the comments below. It's what everyone else does. And I will see you next time.